Hey, bestie.
What's up, girl?
We help people grow in their Christian lives, and through their growth, then they can better fulfill God's calling on their life.
Right. When you come here, you're going to get it through a biblical lens.
And not just ours. I like that we incorporate interviews by people living out the principles.
Yeah, that's for sure. Here we go. This is episode 178 of the I Am Rahab miniseries, and we're talking about chapter 7.
Which is titled, I Am Sacrifice.
So a couple episodes ago, we talked about risk, and today we're talking about sacrifice. So, Daru, what are the differences?
Yes, pretty early on in the chapter, Autumn points out the difference between risk and sacrifice. So risk is there's like a chance of loss. It might be great, it might not be so great. Whereas sacrifice is clear-cut, undeniable, sure loss.
There will be collateral damage.
Goodness. Now, if that doesn't get your juices flowing, right?
Woo! Yeah, I'm so ready.
I can't wait to learn more about sacrifice.
So this book is about Rahab and her story and how she risked her life. And then whenever she made the deal with the spies, like, okay, right? Like, you're going to come back for me, right? You're going to save me and my family, right? And I'm like, yep, sure thing.
Absolutely. And I look at sacrifice in that situation as she had to give up her former life for this new life as a believer in God. So that's going to be very maybe counterintuitive at time and a culture shift, but if you remember her faith, hearing about what God had done for others was what helped carry her through.
Well, and that's like a good image of repentance, right? So I'm going to totally stop living this one way and turn my whole life around and continue forward looking towards God. So yeah, sacrificing her everything she knew. She's going to have to learn a whole new way to live, even just down to how she talks to people. She's going to have to change everything.
Absolutely. And so Autumn talks about, when you take a risk, or in this chapter, make a sacrifice, it might be a little easier if you knew the outcome was guaranteed.
Right.
So she gives some advice on having confidence before you sacrifice, before you see the results. And she talks about how she doesn't put the confidence in herself and her abilities, because she's probably going to disappoint herself.
Right.
So
you will let you down because you're a broken human.
Exactly. So she continuously puts her confidence in Jesus, in God. And, she does that through scripture. She does that through reflection of past sacrifice and coming out the other end. And that's her tips, her advice.
Question for you, Farron. When was the time that you were not confident in yourself but confident in God? So playing this out. So, or just a non-crazy example. How we, as us, me and you, we get asked all the time, how do you do it all? And we just look and say, we don't. There are sacrifices that are made, right?
Yes.
But we don't do it all.
I do think almost every day there are situations that I'm like, how did I get myself in this situation? And how am I going to get out? But it could be even applying for a new job, right? It's going to be uncomfortable doing the application process, setting for the interview, getting your hopes up. And then each job I've applied for has been more work, which is going to take sacrifice somewhere.
Some law of trade-offs.
Yeah, I think I mentioned an episode or two ago about going back to work.
Yeah.
Going back to school. And I knew that was from God, because it sure wasn't from me.
That still makes me laugh.
And so that took sacrifice not only for me, but sometimes what's hard is when it requires other people in your life to sacrifice, whether that's my husband, helping run kids around or keep them busy so I can get my school stuff done, or even, sacrificing some time with my family, which, mom guilt's a real thing.
Yeah, so it's almost like you have to approach it as a team goal, especially if you are a mom, every decision you make affects more than just you, right? So you're going to have to get your team on board somehow. We had Jill McDill on episode 49. She came on and talked about the work-life balance and how that's a myth. It's not a balance. You just incorporate it all. So you have to talk with your spouse. Make sure you communicate with your kids instead of, why is mom always doing this? This is why.
Yeah. And there have been times, I don't know why I feel like I got to highlight this point. It's a little off topic, but maybe someone needs to hear it.
That's fine.
Yeah. Had I not made those specific sacrifices when I felt prompted to, it would have really derailed my progress to where I'm at now. So like that school example, it was a lot of sacrifice. I talked to other people that I thought would maybe do it with me because misery loves company. And they just put it off to later. And if I had not got that certification, I wouldn't be in the position now where I'm able to work from home, where I have some more credibility with those letters after my name, and it's definitely opened up more opportunities. And we're talking a lot about this in our CG. It's like, okay, does prayer change things? And so it could relate to this too. Like, does sacrifice change things if God's already had everything planned out? Now, I'm not the expert, and there's stuff in life that we're not going to know. His ways are better, his thoughts are bigger, and that's where faith comes in. But I think I could have still gotten 2 different opportunities and positions if I would have delayed my schooling. But who knows how long, those blessings would have just been pushed back in my life schedule.
Right, whenever you could just do it when God says to.
So again, if that's you, just give me a shout out. Let me know, because it seems a little maybe off topic, but when you have those promptings and those opportunities, try to see past the sacrifice. Mm-hmm. I try to, in those moments, I guess, you didn't ask me this, and that's okay. But
I'm asking with my mind.
Yes. In those moments, I try to remind myself that the sacrifice is temporary.
Yes.
But the blessings that it can bring are going to outlast the temporary sacrifice.
Yeah, and then ultimately you have the confidence in God that if he has prompted you with this, he's not a manipulator. He's not going to trick you and be like, ha ha ha, I got you to go to school again, Farron.
Right.
No, it's yes, you said yes to going to school, and now here are the opportunities that I can bless you with, which is cool.
Absolutely. And if you are listening to this at any point, Autumn Miles actually just released a podcast on Tuesday. So if you scroll back to October 4th, it was all about how you don't have to have it all figured out. I think that's another thing that holds people back from pursuing a challenge or an opportunity that's going to have sacrifice with it as well, as they want to have it all figured out. And speaking of sacrifices, she refers to Abraham sacrificing Isaac. Spoiler alert, he doesn't actually sacrifice his own son. But she made this point that she's reread that story over and over and over, and she discovered that she was looking for emotion, like doubt, fear, anxiety, questioning, and there's zero emotion in it. And then, I can't remember, go listen to the podcast. But she references these other scriptures that point back to Abraham reflected or had experienced in life God's provision, God coming through.
Yep.
And so while
it
was the most insane thing to ask him to sacrifice his one and only son that he had way later in life, probably his only shot, he remembered God's promise that Abraham was going to,
Father Abraham had many sons.
Yes, have, I don't know, what's the word?
Generations?
Yes, there would be many generations through his lineage to come. And so he didn't try to say, well, let's see how I can help God figure out this one. He just continued.
Brainbuster.
Continued to act in faith. So,
that's
speaking
good.
Of sacrifice.
That's a good one. What about some bad advice? So with the whole, be confident in yourself, that's also a lie that Satan likes to whisper. And yes, be confident in yourself. Sure. But if that is overriding your confidence in God, that's the sin struggle right there. Or if you were too prideful, because that's when it goes from being confident in yourself, being confident in God, to going, I got this on my own, which we're all guilty of. And that's what we also just talked about in CG, about how we think we've got it in this certain situation instead of giving it to God and be like, okay, I'm being a steward of this, guide me through it.
Yeah. I did have a therapist once, one of the early, if you've never been to therapy, the first couple ones, you're kind of feeling each other out, seeing if it's going to be a good fit. And I don't know. I think people like me, but maybe they don't.
I like you, Farron.
I don't know. I can't chalk up her response, but she told me straight up, she's like, well, you are destined to have a nervous breakdown, and there's nothing I can do to help you.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
Red flag, red flag. That makes me very mad, and every counselor who just listened to you say that is also mad.
And my attitude, what I told her is like, I love therapy. I'm all for it. Give me some ideas. I'm going to go and practice them before our next session. So I wasn't coming from a place of refusing to change.
No, you're going to put in the work.
I signed up for this myself. Like I want.
I gave you my monies.
Yes. And so, spoiler alert, I didn't have a nervous breakdown.
Congratulations.
It was a very tough season of life. But yeah, that wasn't good advice. Other not good advice tends to be things that go against maybe my just core values or morals. And they tend to keep you in a place of maybe like comfort.
Yep.
Which sometimes you need a friend that can tell you like, hey, you're running yourself in the ground or, you're whatever. So that's different. But I think things like, well, if you just a little white lie here, or do they really need to know that? Or, just.
What does your heart say?
Yeah. You do you is one that's come up at church a lot.
No,
Yes.
you don't do you. Please don't.
No, it's what would Jesus
Yes.
do?
Bring that back.
Okay. We'll work on that.
So the question to ask yourself, listeners, where is your confidence coming from? So who are you? I mean, who's your best hype man? Obviously, there's someone on earth, but God could be your ultimate hype man, right? He's the one who is providing the confidence for you.
Absolutely. And I think that if you are placing your faith, replace confidence with faith in that sentence, right?
Yeah, even. Mm-hmm.
Are you placing your faith in things of this world and constantly being disappointed? What's the pattern here?
Yes.
So maybe shift gears. You still do have to do all the earthly things and show up to work and perform your best and all that, but just where's your confidence? But if you replace that then with, and where are you placing your faith, careful that you're not putting it in people or things of this world.
Well, and so back to sacrificing on if you have to give up something in order to whatever, like if you have to give up sleeping in so you can do your Bible study uninterrupted, that is currently a thing I'm experiencing right now. The bags under my eyes are designer, by the way. So it's just one of those things, like it doesn't have to be some crazy sacrifice, like you're going to have to move across the continent. Like, no, not necessarily. It could just be you need to rearrange your schedule, or you need to suck it up and wake up 30 minutes earlier. That's self-talk. You, reader, might need gentler words than suck it up, buttercup. But that helps me. So maybe what are some sacrifices that you could give up in order to be blessed eventually down the road? Like you, Farron, that was going back to school, getting uncomfortable going back to school, sacrificing that. And that came with all other kind of little, your team had to get on board. And this is why mom's got to do this. And now, here you are.
Yeah. And Autumn says, you will not be sold short in pouring out your life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why it's not, I guess it could be a sacrifice, but like when you give other people gifts around Christmas time, how much better that feels than like receiving. And so that's kind of the illustration that came to mind when it comes to making a sacrifice, whether it's to pursue your passions and God's calling, or making a sacrifice to serve your family or others well, that you will not be sold short. That doesn't mean the process is going to be easy, but if you stick through it with it and see it through to fruition, you're not going to be sold short. You're going to look back and say, it was worth it.
Yeah, and sometimes you're not the one on the end asking people to sacrifice. You're the one who won. So let's say you are the stay-at-home mom with a newborn and a toddler. And you're just like,
it's not funny, Brooke.
I'm laughing because we've made it. Oh. We made it to the other side.
Yes.
Through blood, sweat, and tears.
Knock on some wood.
Oh. So yes, it's just one of those, you might have the sacrifice of, that's the current life phase, but obviously it turns out great, right? Absolutely. So you want to stick with it. And a lot of it is dying to self. And Morgan and I, we had this conversation at one point a few years ago, and it kind of stuck with me, about how just humans in general are selfish. So when we get upset, or me personally, I get upset when my plans don't go like how I want them to. So that throws me off. There's a reason I wrote it in my planner, guys. Doesn't God see that? But I have to realize okay, it's not necessarily my agenda that runs the world, right? I can come up with these plans, but he guides our footsteps, right? That's the verse. But what can I leave room or space for and not be so frustrated when something changes? Because that's just Brooke's selfish desire of wanting to stick to my plan whenever other opportunities could be presenting themselves. And I'm just missing it being mad. Absolutely. So dying to self there on that and looking for opportunities instead.
Kind of related to dying yourself, and there's going to be some people that disagree with me on this, and that's okay. But this idea of, well, you can't pour from an empty cup. And Brooke, I talked to you about this a couple weeks ago, but I think that you do pour from a cup, but it's what is in your cup. So
exactly.
Maybe you do feel empty. And guess what you pour out? Emptiness. Maybe you're on your phone all the time instead of having interactions with other people, so you are pouring out emptiness. Maybe you're stressed and full of anxiety. People can pick up on that and realize that. So even if your cup feels empty or full of emotions that you don't like, that is still what you're pouring out. And so when it comes to making a sacrifice, I know that I'm the first to tell you, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, but somehow I still find the most awesome reels on Instagram.
Yeah, how do I do that? Somehow I can keep up with everyone on Facebook.
The funniest memes. I can, order Halloween costumes. And not to say that these things are bad or evil or not good, but...
Is it overriding?
Yeah. So when you think of you're making a sacrifice, if that's like a decision you find yourself in, and you're like, I can't because my cup is empty. I need to fill my cup first.
No, your cup is full of...
Full of what? Because all these other words came to mind, Brooke. Yes, your cup is full of something. So see what it is full of?
Well, there's a verse that backs that up, Farron.
Oh, okay.
It's just, how whatever comes out of your mouth, that's what's in your heart.
Oh,
so whatever you're pouring, I'll stop it right now. After hours episode,
I was just thinking of how I was going to finish your sentence earlier, but that's okay.
After hours episode.
Yes.
But whatever you're putting out, it's a direct relation to what you're putting in your body. Mm-hmm. That is a verse that backs up your theory on your cup is always full, just what's in it.
Yeah. So if it's your schedule and you're like, I can't make one more sacrifice, then what are you putting into your cup? What are you putting on your calendar?
What can wait?
Yeah. We've talked about a calendar invite before, or calendar audit before.
You can calendar invite me anytime you want, Farron.
Gosh, I haven't uttered those words in a little while.
So this whole chapter, wrapping up, final thoughts, it's about the sacrifice. So you are going to have to give up something if you want to be blessed.
Yes, but when you think of sacrifice, 1, it's temporary. 2, you're going to get back usually more than you put into it. And 3, I don't know that we talked about this one, but what if you don't make that sacrifice and like other people are that's the answer to their prayers. They need you, and you don't know this because you haven't even started yet, right? So try to find a way to make it happen, whether you feel like you have the time or energy. Find someone who can speak truth into you kindly and let you know, hey, let's put these excuses aside and get after it. But the thing that you don't want to sacrifice could be inhibiting your ability not only to receive blessings, but bless others. Other people might be waiting for your gifts, your talent, or what's on the other side of that sacrifice.
I don't even think that's a maybe. I think that is a fact. We've been innately given gifts to further the kingdom. So by not tapping into that, you're not helping.
Nope. So go do it.
Okay.
Now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Bye.
So we're really good at segues. And sound effects, right.
Yes, so that's the end of our episode. But if you find yourself wanting more, and who could blame you? Brooke, tell them where they can find us Monday through Friday.
We have a lovely website. It's wittyandgritty.blog. You can go there. It has every mini-series ever we've done. What about the socials, Farron?
Yes, we are on Instagram and Facebook primarily, but we do also have a Pinterest account, so be sure to follow us on your favorite social platform.
Yeah. Oh, also fun fact, we release episodes every Wednesday, so you can count on us.
Be sure to subscribe. That way you don't have to go and find it every week.
Yeah, it'll just automatically do the magic computery thingy.
Thank you, technology.
Go
Thank you.
technologies and Instagrams.
Yes. All right, we'll catch you next week, guys. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by 21 Kicks Journals, the journals you'll actually finish.
Research shows that actively doing something for 21 days in a row will change your brain.
Our uniquely designed 21-day journals will grow you on a deeper level, help you increase your odds of achieving your goals, and, not to mention, they're fun and beautifully designed.
Head to the 21 Kicks Etsy shop today to explore your journaling options. We'll link it in the show notes.